If I can tell you guys how many times I went over this and saying, Sarah, press the record button, it's even on my notes in front of me. And I knew it was going to happen at one point. It's fine. So good morning and welcome. All you missed was me going over some housekeeping items, which won't apply to anybody that's watching the replay, and just introducing our awesome panelists who you should be familiar with from the other sessions. So thank you for that reminder. I think it was Janice that through. I knew it was going to happen at one point. So many different things going on in my head. So again, hopefully you have attended the kickoff session or attended the curriculum strategy walkthrough session. And if you haven't, not a problem. Please feel free to watch the playback for both of those. And now this current session is being recorded. Also, we have sent you some infographics to review prior to today. So hopefully you received those and took a look at those. They'll also be available on the training website. So today, after you attend this learning showcase, next week, we will be starting those self-paced learning assets, and we'll talk about how you're going to access those and when in just a second. And then as we go through that, there'll also be VIALT, virtual instructor-led training session guides for you to review. And then we'll do those advanced group preparation sessions. And then we'll kind of talk to you guys as trainers and see when you want to have those Q&A sessions. To differentiate between these two, the advanced group preparation sessions are specific to whichever functional group of part of the new platform is going through. So if you want to attend the catalog one, because you are definitely going to be training on catalogs, that's what those will be for. And then our interactive Q&A sessions are more broad and they cover everything. And it's really just you guys asking me questions about how to train on a specific topic or a specific asset. Excellent. And lastly, I'll just talk a little bit about the agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you're going to access this learning, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kaylee for going through those asset types. I cannot wait for you to see them. And then we'll do a little bit of a wrap up. And if we have time for questions, we will absolutely go into those, but we do have a lot to cover today. And if for some reason we don't have an adequate amount of time for the Q&A, please feel free to email me any questions that you might have, and I will make sure that I get answers for you and provide those on the training website. Excellent. So you have heard me talk about the fact that we will be using the Virginia Institute of Procurement's LMS system, which I have seen a couple times and have even now been able to take a look kind of at the back end, and I'm really excited to be using this. It's robust, and basically anything that I ask Jesse Adams to, can the system do this? It's always a yes, 99.9% of the time. So I'm excited we're going to be using it. You as trainers, though, will be a little bit different. So you'll be able to access the assets by still logging into the LMS, but you'll be navigating to the eVA trainer resources section. It won't be a learning journey because you're taking everything. You're looking at everything. And if you don't have a login to the LMS, if you haven't participated in a VCA or VCO program, not a problem. The system will assign you one and you will be able to log in. And then each asset will have a title, a description, and then corresponding tags. What do I mean by corresponding tags? So for this particular tag, I have the example of an infographic. So the way that I think about these tags is if anybody uses Instagram or Twitter, you can search by certain tags in order to find the information that you need. I can't promise you it'll be as exciting as those two social media platforms, but you will be able to find what you're looking for. So also, let's talk about what's expected of you as you access these next week. We really want you to take the opportunity to learn the materials without being overly focused on review and providing updates or feedback. We definitely want to get that feedback and we will capture it, but as I've mentioned previously, it might not be implemented immediately because we are on such a tight timeline and we want to make sure that our end users are trained within the appropriate amount of time. And then due dates for review will be provided for each asset. I want to talk a little bit about this also, that as we go into next week, I believe that the first set of assets you'll have access to next Friday. You'll be given a week to review those, and then you'll also have a week to do some practice and teach backs within your own entity. And then we'll go into those advanced preparation sessions. I say this because I want you to understand that we are really going to be moving at a fast pace, and there will be weeks where you are reviewing content while at the same time preparing for one of those advanced preparation sessions by practicing in small groups. So I do just want everybody to understand that it's going to seem fast and a lot of work, and we absolutely appreciate you doing this and being trainers. Like I've said many times before, without so many people showing such interest, we wouldn't be able to roll out this information as quickly as we are. So don't get concerned if you get a little overwhelmed. It's normal. Just let me know again if it's, hey, Sarah, I'm behind on this. What's going on here? Not a problem. We'll work with you, but just be prepared. It's going to start quickly, and it's going to keep that same pace throughout the whole Train the Trainer program. But we're hoping that that will allow you to be prepared and confident for training your end users. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention on this slide is technical assistance is available through the VIP LMS. There's contact information for technical support at the bottom of each of the pages in the LMS, but I've also included it here on this slide in case you need it. And then this is just a little preview of what you will be seeing on the VIP LMS. So you can see that I kind of made it a little bit bigger, and you'll be able to access the resources just like this. You will navigate to the EVA trainer resources and be able to access them and open them from there. Again, it's not a learning journey because you'll be taking everything. So it's going to be a little bit different how you as a trainer views it than someone that is a trainee. So I am going to turn it back over to Kaylee, and she is going to, I think, entertain and make you super excited about all of these wonderful assets.
Well, now you've set the bar pretty high. I hope I can deliver. But yeah, we're really excited to show a lot of this stuff to you. I know this is going to be hopefully new and exciting, and we can show you what it's going to look like. So I know in our last session, we talked about several different modality types or asset types. And the first one we're going to talk about today is videos. Well, first, I'll show you a couple high-level information about all of these points on the slide, then I'll show you the actual demo itself. So first off, videos, what are they? Probably about what you'd expect: short, animated, sometimes explainer videos. We often use these to, use system screens, provide contextual information. These are very visually oriented, generally pretty quick. We want to keep them as compact as possible. And this is where we often will introduce conceptual information. So it might be at the start of those functional categories, which we looked at in the previous session in the learning pathways. So it's kind of the lead-in to more advanced content. So actually, I will go ahead and pull up. Let me just switch my screen quickly, including sound. So this is an example. We won't watch the entire video for our session today, but it will be available to you soon. So go ahead and hit play, and hopefully if one of the panelists can just give me a heads up, or a thumbs up rather, that the audio plays.
Hi again. When you create a requisition in EVA, how do you set up payments for your orders? Well, EVA offers you a convenient and safe way of managing payments directly within your profile for use on your purchase transactions in the form of purchase cards or P cards. So, what is a P card? P cards are like charge cards you can use to procure goods and services from suppliers in eVA the same way you would use a credit card in a store. You can set up P card administration within your eVA user profile. Best of all, updates take place with no delay. You can add a P card and use it immediately on your next requisition. Let's first see how to add a P card. Go to the P card info section under My Profile. Click at P card. This will take you to the P card Manage page where you need to provide the
I'm going to pause us there just because I want to make sure we have time to look at everything we have queued up today. I forgot to give an important warning. This probably sounds a bit off to people. This is machine audio. So as we move forward, we will have a slightly more human voice, which might make that seem a little bit smoother to some folks. But we wanted to show that this type of video can accommodate different types of content. So we start by learning about those high-level details, definitions, what is P-card, just to make sure everyone's at the same level playing field. But as we move forward, we can get into more specific navigation steps. Where do I click? What's it going to look like? And that closer view into the system. So I'm going to switch us back to these slides. So there's our video preview. And feel free to put in the chat if anything surprises you or if you have any reactions, we'd love to hear it. Meanwhile, I am going to show us next the e-learning. So this is, again, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, typically self-paced e-learning. This might include some more of those general concepts, demonstrations, or show me videos, sometimes we refer to those as. Knowledge checks, again, making sure it's very highly interactive. Compared to a video, these are a bit more robust, a little bit more hands-on in terms of the level of engagement from learners that we want to see. It's also slightly more theoretical than what we'll see coming up shortly with the practice simulations or the guided practice. And so we'll talk about the differences there. But again, this is for presenting very detailed information in an interactive way. So there's quite a few of these in the curriculum in that learning journey. So to switch over, just a moment. All right. Confirm that sharing. There we go. So in this module, you can see as an example, this one has several different topics. The whole thing, even though we see so many different items to click into here, it's only about 10 to 15 minutes. So as you click into one of these, you can see launches another.
Let's first see what the catalog shopping experience looks like for a buyer in eVA. First, the buyer will identify the product type to purchase. This can be a contract item, punch-out item, or non-contract item. You'll learn more about these in the next topic. The buyer will browse all catalog products provided in the system for that particular product type. For something specific, the buyer can use the search or filter feature.
Again, just in the interest of time, I'll pause us there on this particular screen, but you can see there is a mix. Whoop, pardon the audio. There's a mix of diagrams being built out in these video formats. As I click next, I believe we'll see a knowledge check.
Now, let's put your knowledge to test. Which of these statements is true about catalog shopping? Select the correct option and submit.
So here is just one example of the type of check-in that we might see. In this case, first I want to see an incorrect answer choice, so you'll see what happens there if the learner does not answer correctly.
That's incorrect. While the buyer can browse all catalog products in eVA, for something specific, they can use the search or filter feature. Close the pop-up to try again.
So you can see, again, right now it's machine audio, but this will be kind of that comforting coaching voice explaining what maybe you hadn't thought about, or if you need to clarify misunderstanding, we'll be able to provide that feedback to learners so that they understand maybe what mistake they've made or what led them astray. But then as you get the correct answer.
That's correct. Once catalog items are added to the shopping cart, the requisition shell is created and integrated with P2P. Select Next to proceed.
So we think it's very important that whether the learner answers correctly or incorrectly, we still want to provide them feedback. In this case, that reinforcing feedback, just to make sure that they understand why they got it correct. There's always a chance it's a guess. Maybe there's some broader context that they didn't even realize when they answered it correctly. So we always want to provide that follow-up information as well.
Select a topic to proceed.
So you can see each of these topics, not necessarily very lengthy, just enough to keep it kind of bite-sized, making sure we're focusing on one very finite topic at a time, just to keep the learning organized. You'll notice at the end of this pathway, a Candyland path is what we were joking about earlier. It's kind of fun and colorful, but as you get to the end, there is a summary where you can review those key points and takeaways, just to make sure that it is all cumulative and consolidated in one place at the end. So I'm going to switch us back to the slides. I think next we will look at those practice simulations, or the guided practice. And so these interactions wherein learners perform tasks based on a scenario and receive feedback. And again, that feedback is super critical here. We want to make sure that people know not only what the right thing is to do, but why it's wrong to do something else, or what the consequence might be if you do hit the wrong button, or what will that lead to. This is much more practical or hands-on than the e-learning, but we do often see them paired together. So you might first see an e-learning where you watch someone else do the steps, or you kind of learn the basics, but then this is the chance to actually try it yourself and see what you can do. So this is often used sort of as that follow-up practice opportunity. Let me switch over. In this case, I'm going to jump us in about halfway through, a little less than halfway through.
You are looking to purchase some office supplies, including pencils. You know the exact supplier, which is Office Depot, and product you want to buy, and now simply need to place a requisition for this product. This will require you to launch the contract catalog, add items to the contract cart and checkout, fill details and submit for approval. Select Next to continue.
So here we can think of this like an instructions page. This is the context that we're in. These are the three main tasks that we need to complete. And so now as we go through the scenario, we'll have a chance to actually click and practice. So first, task 1, launching the contract catalog. Very first step, select shop. And so you can see, you'll get kind of this positive reinforcement. Everyone likes the fun sounds and the stars to create that gamified feel. And as you continue, you'll progress through that step. Maybe this one's a bit simple, but if for some reason it was more complex or difficult, let's say you hit the wrong button, you'll also get feedback and kind of redirect you to where you should be looking instead. Again, depending on the complexity, there might be more detail here, but you will get the chance to keep trying. Get that star. Everybody loves the ding sound, just like you would in a game on your phone. It kind of keeps you motivated and paying attention. The other thing here is that, as you get further along, perhaps there's something more nuanced in the scenario that might dictate which option you select. You can always pop that open and just sort of review what you're supposed to be doing. Remember what the context was. You can always close that. Same thing with process steps. Kind of get that reminder of the overall goals of what you should be doing and what that pathway looks like. The big thing I want to call out here is that once you have completed all steps within a task, we have a little badging system here so that it's clear that you've mastered that task. And once you get through to the end of the overall guided practice experience, that badge system will pop up again to help reinforce what you've accomplished in that exercise. So for now, again, just be mindful of time. I might pause us here, but again, I'd love to see in the chat if anyone has reactions, what you think of this, if this would motivate you and your learners. So we'd love to hear about that. Going to switch back. Next up, we have quick reference guides or PDFs, and these are performance support, or sometimes referred to as job aids. They contain all of the detailed recaps, on-demand information. Sometimes we think of people maybe printing these out, keeping them at their desk. Generally, we intend for these to be used for future reference, often related to those e-learning modules, making this the kind of quick document, 1-pager, 2-pager that you look at, as opposed to necessarily repeating multiple times the same e-learning. So there's sort of a difference between first time use and then future ongoing support use. I think this is also often important for tasks that maybe you don't do as frequently. It's good to kind of have that, things that you do every day, maybe you'll get into those habits quickly. But for other things that you do, not quite as often, it's good to have the reference available. I'm going to show a quick example of this one. Just a moment to switch. Here we go. So this is a browser viewer, so it's a little bit small here. But you can see we've got a couple pages, pardon the scrolling. And this, this particular example would tie to one of the earlier videos we watched about P cards. You can see it's grouped into different sections. First, adding P cards. You can see this annotated image, kind of the enlarged screenshot from the system, and you can see each field here goes into a little bit more detail. We have a clarification about, what can you type here? Where does this information come from? How do you populate it? So you can see this is a little bit more robust than some of the earlier videos we saw, kind of balancing the blended modality approach. What is useful to you at what point? And so since this is the ongoing access, this is where we have a lot of those details. So you can see that was adding, here's viewing P cards, what do these symbols mean, all the way through how do you use them in the transactions. So again, what are the relevant fields? We've highlighted those, extra context, what tabs or drop-down buttons do you select? So that's all here in one consolidated place. And of course, we like to use color and different ways to make it a little bit more engaging and easy to recognize this document as well. Let's switch back. I think we've just got a couple more. Next up is VILTs, which of course is going to be of a lot of interest for this group. So here, what are they? I think we're very well versed, 60 minutes, generally on Zoom. This is that human element aspect that's so important. It's an opportunity to ask questions, discuss observations, talk to your peers. And these are typically at the end of a functional category, usually one of the last points before the assessment. In some cases, we divide this group by audience. So I think catalogs is a perfect example. We have one for requisitioners, another for suppliers, just because they have different goals in mind for how they use the system. So I'm going to show actually two different pieces here in the sample. I'm going to start with what we call the VILT slides, which is the actual trainer guide. In just a moment. I'll go back up to the top here. So the formatting here might look familiar. It's much the same template and style as what we've been using for the Train the Trainer. But to see kind of the behind the scenes view, this is structured. The main staging area, of course, is what the learner sees. But down here in the margin, that's where we've got notes about, say, how long you might want to spend on a certain slide, roughly. What should you do? What should you say? These vary. Sometimes it's very specific wording that you can use. You can leverage as transitions or to present specific definitions. Sometimes it's higher level. Do this, launch the poll. How do you do that? You'll see there's a couple slides. This is clearly a template where you might want to insert your own photo. In fact, please do insert your own photo. We don't need to use this gentleman's name, contact information. Very minor points that just require subtle updates to make sure that you're customized for your group and that they know how to reach you in case of questions. You'll see for something a little bit more specific, like poll questions, we have a little bit more detail here in the bottom in that trainer leader notes margin. So for the do, we have a little bit more on quick polls, select the poll, how do you launch it? What should you be doing during the poll? How do you end it? How do you share results? So that's all documented here to make sure that it goes smoothly for you. You can also see in some places we've got this coordinator role highlighted, and that's for situations where we have someone kind of running behind the scenes, helping make sure things again just go smoothly. What might that division of responsibility look like to make sure that you have all the support you need as a trainer? Big thing here is that you can focus on the content and making sure that the learners have the information they need, answering questions, presenting details, whereas the coordinator is almost like the tech expert in the background, making sure the slides work and the polls work, clearing the screen after annotations, if there's any issues in the chat, helping troubleshoot. So those are kind of how we define those roles. And we can be very flexible as well in your organization if there's, for some reason that's not available, or maybe you need to split those slightly differently, you can always make that informed decision as well. But you can see here, kind of had the full deck. In this case, it's only about 19 slides for this particular sample. But then, go through, kind of follow through what they look like. And just to show you kind of what the learner sees, if this is what you see as the leader, the trainer, just a moment to swap views. Here we go. The learners will see what we call the participant guide. And so this is meant to help them stay focused, stay aligned to where you're at in the presentation. And it's also a note-taking mechanism to keep their notes organized, help them keep their thoughts, again, focused and clear. So here, during the slides, again, everything kind of in this main area is going to map to the visuals that are in the slide deck. So they can kind of keep track there. Quick recap, in this case, there were several sections that were introduced in that recap. And so you can see again, these images, I know I only had it up on screen for a moment, but in that PowerPoint, these match pretty much one-to-one. But as the learners are going, this notes feature in the margin is fantastic. People can take notes on what surprised them. Maybe if there was a special talking point that came out that wasn't documented on the slide, they can capture it in the notes if they're so inclined. They can also capture their questions here, which is good. I know we often say save questions for the end in case we answer it, but we hope you don't forget by the end. So they can always jot down notes here as well. And it will save. You just need to, save a new copy of this to your local computer, and we can, get more information on that for learners as well. But it's simply a PDF that you can save, going all the way through. Q&A session, again, same thing. You can take notes on what your colleagues ask, what the responses were. If there's anything you want to follow up on, you can always do that as well. And you kind of click through, again, next back, so that with the instructor, with the trainer, you're following along and can take those takeaways as well. So this is what I'm especially curious in the chat, because I know this is something you'll be dealing with directly as trainers. We'd love to see any responses to those. And we'll perhaps circle back to some of those at the end. I want to show just one more asset type, which is, here we are, assessments. And so this is, very specific type of thing. I'm sure you've all taken assessments before related to training in the past. In this case, they're each going to be 10 minutes long, multiple choice questions, 80% requirement to pass. It's culminating. We want to make sure that everything that's been introduced before that to this audience, we want to be able to measure and validate that the learner has actually absorbed everything that they need to. And it's not to be strict with anyone. It's really just to help them know that they've met the requirements and that they're prepared to be successful in the system on their own. So if there is something that maybe they haven't earned the passing score, it's probably a good sign that they need to review something. Otherwise, they might come into trouble. Same thing, when are they used? These are at the very end of each functional category. The one exception to that is, introductions or getting started, or things where simply by logging in, that's the fact that you've been successful. So we have different approaches for those. I do want to share this example. Switch gears here. I'm going to start us again partway through just to make sure we have plenty of time. So here again, instructions will be presented, kind of the same points that I had just shared. But as you go through, as an example. So you can see this is the first question. You know, you kind of see across the top that's meant to indicate progress of how far you've made it through the assessment. In this case, true or false. I can just hit one at random here. And because it's an assessment, you don't immediately find out whether you answered it correctly or incorrectly. We want learners to go through the full process first. You know, maybe hitting, this one's multiple choice, hit a couple of random ones again. In this case, we have kind of this click image approach. So based on some goals that are stated in the question, if you want to do this, where should you click? And so we have options. Some of them are, you know, purposely a little bit tricky. We did a lot of research with our subject matter experts to figure out where the most mistakes are made. And that gives us a chance to really reinforce the correct behaviors here. So you might see some of those are answer choices are actually common mistakes that we want to make sure learners know how to avoid. I'm going to just quickly run us through to get to the results page. I'll purposely, I think, mark a few wrong to make sure we see what that review looks like. So you can see there's a good variety here in terms of what the question types are.
You earned less than 80%.
Yikes.
Unfortunately, you must score 80% or higher to pass this assessment. Select Review to review which questions you answered incorrectly, or select Try again to retry the assessment. You can review additional materials before you retry the assessment.
So here, again, machine audio I know can be distracting for some. This will be refined as we move forward. But hopefully this goes to show that you cannot randomly click through the assessment and earn the passing score. So as you go through, we do want learners to take it seriously and give their best effort. They can try again if they haven't met the proper 80% score. They can review either by closing and revisiting a video that they've seen or the e-learning module. But we also have this built-in review feature. So as you click this, you can see, again, the same 10 questions. You can see which ones you got right, which ones were wrong. We don't give away the right answers. So for example, here, we know this combination is not correct, but we aren't revealing what the correct answer is. Again, that gives the learners a chance to reflect, think about maybe what they don't know here, could help them learn, you know, to clarify the differences. But that gives them, again, the chance to go through, see what mistakes they might have made before they try again. Just to click through here. Then you can go and say, okay, now I realize where my mistakes were. Let me give it another shot. And you get to try again from the beginning. So I'll take us back now to our slides. And we actually have, I know people have been putting in the chat, but we'd love to see now with this poll about which one of these maybe excites you the most, or resonated with you the most, which are you most eager to try yourself? We'd love to see. Okay, so coming in. Sarah, I'm actually not sure if everyone sees the results yet or if that's just me, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's just you and I for right now. And then
Sure.
as soon as I get probably over 50% that have responded, I will end the poll and then everybody can see it.
Perfect. Give everyone another moment here.
It's definitely interesting to see it from our side and see them changing in real time.
Yes, yes. I won't reveal anything, but there is a clear leader, which is exciting.
Yeah, it looks like we have about 67% coming through that have participated. So once we get to about 70, I will end the poll and we can take a look at these results. Maybe they just like all of them and they can only provide a single answer.
How do you decide?
Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and end it. And we'll share the results.
Yeah, so I was really excited to see that the simulations, those guided practice exercises, came out pretty clearly there. If I could interpret, I'm willing to guess that that's because people like that hands-on practice opportunity, really the most interactive with the system, which is something we saw as part of our initial analysis that we talked about last week as well. That's something that really resonated with learners. So glad to see that you guys are in alignment there as well. That's very reaffirming for us. So I have a lot of positivity around videos, e-learning, PDFs, a little bit less love on the assessments and the VILTs. I think VILTs here might be underrepresented because those are really great chance for that human connection and making sure that, this is real. What does that look like to others too?
I'm turning my camera on and my audio on to say that the VILT ones were my favorite, because coming from a background where I've had to create all of that material and those slide decks and then user guides, not user guides necessarily, but really having the trainees set of slides and having the ability to have notes. I just think that that's fantastic. It gives all of our trainers a good foundation, and then they can add their own flair to it and make it specific if they want to. But that's personally my favorite. Although I do like the practice simulations too, because I like the gold stars.
Awesome. Good. I think then we can go ahead and move ahead. There might be more questions at the end that we can address, but for now, I think that does it for our preview. I'll switch over. Actually, Sarah, if you want to jump back on, we can talk about kind of looking forward, including those upcoming content drops.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kaylee, for going through that. I think that everybody is hopefully just as excited as I am. So our next step is next week. You'll be completing some self-paced learning assets. There will be instructions that are sent out to you all as trainers about when and where to access them. But as a reminder, talked about it a little bit earlier in this session. And as I said, it will ramp up quickly. We will be deep in the training world, learning how to be great trainers for the new platform. So I am definitely excited about that. Now, then we will also, as part of those learning assets, those VILT guides, those trainer guides that you saw Kaylee present today, you'll also have the opportunity to review those. So I think it's going to be great to hear what you guys think, if there's things that need to be changed, and we'll try to make those changes as we go through if we can. Again, we are on a tight timeline, but obviously if there's a glaring error in one, I think somebody earlier said they noticed a typo in one, we'll absolutely look into that. We want to make it the best we can so that when our end users go through training, it is a nice, clean product and set of assets that they can review. Also, the advanced group preparation sessions, the only reason these two dates are TBD, I've mentioned this on previous sessions, is because it might depend on when those drops happen. So we know that the first one is going to be happening next Friday, but depending on how quickly or if something gets delayed, that might change that. So we will absolutely be communicating those dates out to all of you as our fellow trainers, and also updating our training website, which, as a reminder, is going live tomorrow. So I'm definitely excited for you all to see that. I know I gave you a little preview, but it's different when you get to click around and enjoy it yourself. And then I think, awesome. So these, Kaylee, do you want to talk about the content drops, or you want me to cover this? I can do either.
I'll let you focus on this one, and if I can jump in, I will, but I'll let you take lead.
Sure, absolutely. So, so on the left side here on the for this particular table, you can see all the different types, the modalities of the different assets and the different drops that they will be in. Don't get too nervous about the fact that there are 6 drops. A lot of these are going to be completed by our trainers and given to our trainees. Mostly those are going to be in drops 1 through 4. You'll look at these and you can kind of see, okay, this is what we're looking for most of our end users will fall into one of these categories. And then if you look a little later on at the content drop 5, it's really basic system preferences. And then if you go to the final drop, it's more of supplier and catalog maintenance. We're deciding to train them last so that they are fresh and ready to go in the system. And we also know how busy suppliers are, and we want to make sure that we aren't training them too early and giving them too much. So these are the content drops that include all of the assets. And then I think that there is one more slide where we talk about the different VILT drops. We are focusing on these differently because these will be the sessions where you as a trainer are live and teaching your end users. So we focus on them separately because these take extra preparation for obvious reasons, because the other assets are self-paced. These are the only ones that are live and interactive. And we want to make sure that you are prepared for all of these. And that's what those advanced preparation sessions will be about after you've had the time to practice within your entity. I'm seeing some good stuff in the chat too. And it looks like we did have some questions come in. Will this training tool be available after go live? We would like to use it for new employees using eVA. Great question, Stephanie. And the answer to that is definitely yes. This is not going away. What we're hoping to do is that after we go through this initial set of training and we have new employees that start, we can have a learning journey ready for them to go and take everything that they need to. So absolutely. And then when do we expect to wrap up Train the Trainer? Great question. We are expecting to wrap up Train the Trainer towards the end of October, beginning of November. However, there will still be assets that are available to our end users, our trainees, people we're training prior to that in some cases. When will we receive our assigned sections on which we will train? Who is making the assignment section? You actually get to decide what you feel comfortable training on. I think that the majority of our trainers have signed up to train everything, but we obviously know that there are some exceptions there. So for instance, our procurement folks at DPS probably will only want to train on that sourcing and maybe contract management. It really just depends on what you would prefer to train on. And even within your specific entity, if there's somebody that feels stronger about training P2P in that VILT, remember virtual instructor-led training, they can absolutely do that and you can assign it that way, but we're really leaving it up to you. If there's any part of this that you're like, you know, we can't really handle training on this particular functionality group, all you have to do is let us know. We do have trainers on the eVA team and at DPS that can help you with that training. I do not, oh, we do have a question. Will you send out an email to our notified? Absolutely, Ange, great question. And I'm sorry I didn't cover that more. Yes, we will be sending out an email tomorrow to let you know that the training website has gone live so that you can take a look, play around, access what you need to. And then also, if you want to let the other people at your entity know about the end users, let them know about the new website. We would love it. We're very, very, very excited about it. So absolutely. And I promise you, I've only had one cup of coffee. I am just this excited. Okay, got another question. Why is so much of the terminology having to change? good question. So we're in a new platform, right? So some things are going to be the exact same. It's just that the terminology might be a little different. I don't know what you're referring to as it pertains to training. There are definitely some new terminology, and Kim Brewer, who is awesome about making sure that everybody knows what the new terminology is. We are making a terminology sheet, and she recommended that there be one specifically for training. So we will also be creating one of those and housing it on the training website. So I know terminology changing can absolutely be tough, and we're hoping that as you go through and look through all the assets that you'll become more familiar with those terminology changes. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, but I do want to cover some of few little closing items for us all to keep in mind. First of all, as I said, there will be a survey after this. Please give us your feedback about these sessions. I would love to see what you have to say, and how we can improve or what we're doing well. Please, please, please fill out the survey. Also, as I mentioned, starting next week, that first content drop will be happening. So do not forget about that. And then Amani is also reminding me that there are a few assets that are dropping in December, including a supplier specific VILT, because remember, they are the ones that will be trained last before the system goes live. And I've already kind of briefly went over this, but I want to touch on it just one more time in case anybody has any questions about it, that you will be given a week after a content drop to review that particular set of assets. And then the week after that, you'll be able to practice within the folks in your entity to prepare for those advanced preparation sessions. And I have the training website on here again, just because I'm so excited, but I've mentioned enough about that. And then it looks like we have another question. Will the LMS system be available for all end users to take the training? Yes, if you, the majority of our folks are going through the LMS system to take the training. Why is this a good thing? There are a couple reasons. One, we can see what everyone has taken. They have their learning journeys that are assigned and show up as soon as the end users log in. And then we can also see what the progress is and run reports on those. And we'll have reports sent to our account executives who can then share them with our agencies and entities. And you can see, okay, where are my end users with training? Have they been through enough? We only have 2 weeks left, and I'm seeing that maybe only 50% have completed the training. You'll be able to track that. It's also a great system, something that I said before that I'm very excited about because it is so robust and you can make changes pretty quickly. And I promise not to make too many changes though, Jessie, in case you're on, but she's just been fantastic with being able to being able to answer any of my questions. So yes, 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 it will be available for all end users unless a specific entity decides they don't want to use it, but I highly recommend using it for all the reasons I just mentioned. Excellent. Well, I am not seeing any other questions that have come through. So I hope that, I just got another one. If they do not take the training, will it prevent the end user from logging in? No, we absolutely don't want to prevent anyone from not being able to get into the system, but it is highly recommended that people go through their assigned learning journeys and then explore anything else that they might want to learn about, just because that's going to prepare you for actually using the new platform. And we want to make sure that people feel comfortable. And that will be the first question that we ask when somebody says, hey, I have no idea how to do this. Have you taken this training? And we can look up and see if they have. And if they haven't, we can make sure that they go through that to answer any questions that they might have. Did I misunderstand earlier that training would be in VIP? No, it will be in the VIP learning management system. So it is hosted by our wonderful folks at VIP. It is the learning management system that you go through to sign up for any procurement training that is part of DGS. Sorry if I was not clear on that. So we only have about a minute left, and I don't want to take up any more of your time today than we told you we would take. Remember that this recording will be available, and please, please, please take the survey that will be after this session. And I just want to thank you all again. As I've said, this is the last session of our onboarding for our trainers, and we cannot thank you enough for participating and doing the extra work to make sure that everybody is trained and feeling confident in the new platform. And thank you again to our awesome, awesome partners at CGI and InfoPro. We could not have done this without them and could not continue to do it without them. So thank you all. Have a fantastic rest of your day.